Hey there! Welcome back to another Genshin Impact Abyss review. We just got the first 3.1 Abyss, and we have some changes onto the Abyss. Of course, floor 11 and 12 have changed, but floor 9 and 10 remain the same, so we don't need to go through those, and we can focus on floor 11 and 12. So, what's going on with floor 11 and 12? So, in general, I would consider this Abyss harder than the previous one. The previous one had the Jade Terror Shroom, the Dendro boss on floor 12. It also had, of course, the Vishaps, the Bathysmal Vishaps that were insanely tanky, and as I saw in many comments on Genshin forums and stuff, people had a lot of trouble dealing with those things, and I can easily understand them. They are extremely tanky. But this time, we have something much worse. Much worse on floor 12. It's okay in terms of difficulty, but it can be extremely annoying. But the big problem with this Abyss is that it's very restrictive. One of the worst things that Genshin has, where we have characters or enemies that are very restrictive on what you can do against them. One of the big ones, of course, was when the Golden Wolf Lord came into the Abyss. It was absolutely necessary for you to bring Geo, else you weren't able to actually, do the Abyss. And we have the same thing with ASIMON. I don't know the full name of that fucking thing. It's actually ASIMON, but I call it ASIMON because, hey. So yeah, we have the new boss, the new Ruin boss, ASIMON. And, well, it needs Electro. It absolutely needs Electro. There is no way you're getting through this thing without Electro. Absolutely no way. So, let's tackle the floors and see what we have. Floor 11. Our leyline disorder is that you have an extra Electro damage. That is to be expected. Sinnoh is in the banners. And we have a decent floor. Nothing crazy. So, the first chamber of floor 11 is a monolith defense as always, and we've got, for the first half, we have some mushroom enemies, some fungi enemies, so they're pretty easy. They're not tanky, they are very easy to CC, so Venti is gonna easily delete this chamber, like absolutely easy, and he is in the banners, so it's an easy grab if you don't want to go for Sinnoh, an absolutely easy grab that will trivialize this Abyss, by the way. But nevertheless, some grouping, Kazuha, Sucrose, even Diluc will easily deal with the fungi because this is floor 11 and these enemies are not hard at all. They are very easy to kill, of course. The second half, though, of this chamber has one of the Eremite dudes that summon the crocodile, I believe, and some primal constructs, the new ruin enemies that you'll see in the desert. These can be very dangerous, extremely dangerous. The first time I went through the Abyss, I went with basically 100% on the first chamber, but the second half, I finished at around 90 to 80% of the monolith, because these primal constructs can go absolutely ham on their attacks and really deal a lot of damage to the monolith. So, while the first chamber can be absolutely trivial and you get no damage on the monolith, you need to be a bit careful about these constructs. The good thing is, you don't necessarily need some grouping here. From the first moment these constructs spawn, they will just float towards the monolith and group themselves up, while the Eremite guy will charge afterwards. So you might not need some grouping to get through this, but Kazuha is the recommended one here. Venti can also be good, but Kazuha will easily group them up enough to easily deal with them with some AoE, or even somebody like Hu Tao hitting multiple enemies because they are so cramped up together. So, some good AoE is gonna be needed, and again, be careful. Just be careful that these primal constructs don't deal a lot of damage to the monolith with their attacks. I don't think you're gonna need Electro to make them visible. I do not believe they're actually gonna go invisible, because when they go invisible, this tends to be against the player. I don't think they're gonna go invisible against the monolith, which is their target. So, but because I killed them too fast, I didn't experience that, so your mileage may vary. But I don't believe you're gonna need Electro on this one. So the second chamber is really just a bunch of Eremites and Fatuis on both halves. So there's not much to be said here. It's a really regular chamber. Some of the enemies, some of the Fatuis do have some of the auras like Smoldering Flames and the Hydro one, because there is a Thick Maiden on the second half. But because this is floor 11, they are pretty easy to take down. Some grouping is definitely recommended, but they spawn in waves. That's the annoying part, I guess. But some grouping is okay. They spawn, in groups of 3 and they're pretty close together, so I don't think there's gonna be much of a problem. They're regular enemies. This is floor 11. It's okay. So, last chamber is also pretty easy. The first half is still more Eremites and Fatuis, so that's that really. Nothing crazy there. But the second half is the Jade Terror, the Jade Terrors from Jade Plume Terrors Room, I think is the full name. It's been moved from floor 12 to floor 11, and as I mentioned in the previous review, this thing isn't hard at all. Because it affects itself with Dendro, you actually don't need to bring a Dendro character to proc any reactions on it that can be useful, like Spread, Aggravate. So it's very easy to just bring any sort of character and just kill it with the reactions that are gonna proc to itself. This is also floor 11, so it has much lower health than floor 12, so it ends up pretty easy. So floor 11 is in general okay. Again, be a bit careful with the primal constructs on the monoliths, but I don't think many people will have lots of problems on them. And it's just mobs, just Eremites, Fatuis, just easy to deal with enemies, especially if you're using Kazuha and Venti. Let's move on to floor 12 though. Floor 12 has no Leyline Disorder, that's good to see. And it's mainly okay until you reach floor 12-3. So, on the first chamber, you've got some Kairagis and some Eremites. They are also present in floor 11, actually. But they are natural mobs. They are okay. We've seen Kairagis and enemies like that, like Treasure Hoarders, on floor 12-1 lots of times. So I think you most likely will have a way to deal with them. They just need a bit of grouping. They just need some good AoE. Be careful to kill both of the Kairagis at the same time so that they don't regenerate health, right? They enter the infused form. Although if you have time to spare, you can easily just kill them again when they heal up, right? As for the second half, we got some Primal Constructs here. They are actually pretty okay to deal with. You might need some Electro here if they enter their invisible form, but from what I've seen and what I've experienced, either it's completely RNG on when they enter the invisible form, or you really need to wait for them to do that. With my Hu Tao team that I brought first with Kazuha, they never entered their invisible form, and then I brought Fischl for Asimov, and again they never entered their form. I killed them very quickly with a Hu Tao team. So your mileage may vary. If you need Electro, well, you will have an Electro if you're gonna go through the Abyss again, to tackle Asimov, as Asimov is also on the second half. So you're gonna have an Electro to deal with these constructs as well. But again, I don't feel like you necessarily need one. They die really quickly, I believe. And then there's the two Eremites with the spirit animals. They can be a bit tanky for sure, but you can kill the animals once they summon them to put them into the state where they're just lying down. I don't know if the resistances are lowered, but they're not moving, so that's a plus. So yeah, the first chamber of floor 12-1 is okay. It's just a few mobs. Yes, the primal constructs are new, but they aren't that annoying, actually. Second chamber, on the first half, we have some ruin enemies, some ruin guards, and the ruin-like protectors, like the jellyfish thingy, those sort of things. They have some weird spawning. Once you go to the key, the ruin jellyfish thingy, the ruin cruiser, I think it's called, it, spawns exactly on top of you, which is really interesting. I don't know what the fuck is up with the weird spawning on this abyss in general. But yeah, they are ruin enemies. They group up very easily because they're also just together. There's the ruin drakes thingy, but I think they're both the walking ones. You don't have the flying ruin drake. So they just group up. Some good AoE will easily deal with them, as you most likely got AoE for the first half. For the first chamber, right, you have the Kairagis there, you have some good AoE here for the ruin enemies. They're pretty easy. Second half is our buddy, old pal, Magukinko. He is back. Magukenki is back. He is the absolute Magukenki. He is extremely easy. If you have a good boss killing team, this man, this poor puppet goes down very easily. Be careful, of course, for his giant slash attacks. You know, maybe you want to use some invulnerability through your bursts in order to tank it. Some shielding, of course, is very good against him, right? Just, you know, don't waste your really powerful bursts or rotations when he's gonna do his switch phasing, right? When he slams the ground, but he isn't taking any damage. You know, be careful there. But it's Magukenki, like we've seen him so many times, and actually, I'm fine. I'm glad to see Magukenki back in the Abyss. I enjoy him. He's very easy and enjoyable. Next up is the last chamber, floor 12-3. So, on the first half, we have got some Bathysmal Vishaps, but we have the hatchlings, we have the small ones. Here, though, they spawn exactly on top of you. You spawn in the middle. Like, you touch that key to start the challenge, they spawn exactly around you like an ambush. It is crazy. What the heck is up with this weird ass spawning? But yeah, they are the hatchlings, thankfully, compared to the other bigger ones. They have low health. They can definitely use some grouping up with Venti or Kazuha to easily just stagger them and group them up. And after that, they are pretty easy to kill. They don't have as much health as their Brick Brothers. And, you know, be careful with their attacks that they drain energy. And if you don't have energy, they deal damage, a lot of damage to you. So be careful because they usually will start with that attack. So when the challenge starts, you will have 4 Vishaps shoot their that energy attack towards you. So be careful with what you want to use. You know, you might want to, let's say if you have a Zhongli, switch to Zhongli so that you can tank the energy like reduction thingy. So look at that. You know, be careful not to take a lot of damage or maybe kill a character because they don't have their burst up and they take damage from this. But nevertheless, it's the hatchlings. They die easily, thankfully. Then, floor 12-3 second half is ASIMON. So, it's the new enemy that is the new ruin thingy that you're gonna find in the desert in one of the pyramids. This thing is not you're not able to do this thing, especially on the 7-minute mark, without Electro. And even worse, and even like lower times, you're not doing this without Electro. Just absolutely not. But any Electro will do. You want to bring Sinnoh? Bring Sinnoh. You want to bring Raiden? Bring Raiden. You want to bring Fischl, Sarah, Beidou? Bring any of these characters. I would suggest bringing an Electro character that is easy to target, like has skills easy to target. Bring Genshin. Right. Just bring an Electro. I brought my Hu Tao team, and instead of Kazuha, I brought Fischl. So I'm doing some sort of over-vaping Hu Tao, and it did really well against this boss. But this boss is just annoying. Like, when I went to fight this thing in the overworld, just to unlock it and just to see a bit of it in action, and maybe do some achievements with it, I saw it do plenty of attacks. But this thing absolutely loves to do the attack where it just goes invisible and leaves its parts out. Like, it will absolutely spam this, especially in the Abyss, and you are absolutely locked into using an Electro character to break it out of the invisibility. So how does this thing go? So you start the fight, this thing might do 1 or 2 attacks, but the big thing is that it's gonna slam the spear down on the ground, and then it's gonna split it into parts. And there, you need to apply lots of elements in order to kill one of these parts. This is an important thing. You'll see around 4 to 5 parts scattered on the ground. You need to kill only one of them for it to enter the second phase of this thing. So just focus on applying lots of elements onto one of these constructs or one of these parts that it has, so you can easily use Fischl, just anything. Xingqiu is really good for his ICD. This matters a lot, right? Characters with a lot of application on elements that don't have ICD, internal cooldown, so that will definitely help. But again, just focus on killing one of them. Once that happens, this thing will either reappear and do some sort of other attack, or it will once again split into parts where it starts doing some sort of recovery thingy. Then you just need to hit the main body, the main invisible body with Electro, and then it enters the weakened state, and that's your chance to fuck it up. That's the only thing you can do. You can attack it before it splits into parts, but there isn't much time to actually do this. The main damaging time is when it's in its weakened state. And it really spams the parts splitting attack. So you will have chances to bring it to the weakened state. But I just don't really like this thing, right? Like, the Ruined Serpent was extremely annoying because it was never above ground for you to hit it, right? And we got the J Terror Shroom, right? It was okay because it was just sitting around doing some attacks, but you can always hit it. This thing just needs Electro. Absolutely needs Electro. There is no way you're revealing this thing without Electro, and you must reveal it. If you don't put this thing into the weakened state, you are not doing this Abyss with 7 or less time. You're not getting 3 stars on this floor, on this chamber, or even 2. And that's it. That's the Abyss. I don't enjoy it, as I said. I don't like the restrictiveness where you need Electro against Asimov. This is an enemy that does not belong into the Abyss. The bosses that enter the Abyss need to be nice and general, with basically all teams, or at least 90% of the characters, being able to counter their mechanics. Here, again, it's only Electro. But that's it. That's it from me. Next up should be the Sinnoh review, but the Scarabs are extremely hard to find, so I'll see you most likely in another video. Goodbye, leave a like, and subscribe if you want some more Genshin content, of course, and you want to support the channel a lot, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.